How you doing?
Hey, doing good. Thank you to both of you for taking the time to do this interview.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's great to be able to talk to you and be able to talk about what is starting out to be a
Thank you for
really
having us.
fantastic band here. Of course, with the first track being out for a bit of time now, it's great to be able to see where you guys are at right now. I've seen incredible stuff people have said about this track, and I know I really thoroughly enjoy what's going on here, and it's just great to be able to talk to both of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Oh,
we've
of
got
course.
a lot going on. We just started working on some new material recently. Well, we've been working on some new material,
Where we, yep, we appreciate all the nice words.
but now we're finally starting to get together the rest of the album. Once we got the single down, we've kind of got a good direction going. We kind of finally have figured out where exactly we're headed, and we're excited to be able to execute that on the rest of these songs.
Oh, fantastic. So, starting with that, let's start all the way from the beginning. Like, how did this band all come together?
Josh, do you want to tell me? 'Cause I
Instagram,
forgot.
actually. It started in the Instagram comment section.
We're all great band
Yeah,
names.
I posted a reel on Instagram of me playing the bouzouki, and it was tagged with Bardcore. Yeah, it was tagged with Bardcore, and she commented, "Oh, I love this," and I was like, "Wait, we're following all of the same bands." So we kind of made quick friendship like that.
Hmm. And then I nagged Josh for the next 3 years to work on music with me, and then we finally did.
Oh, that's so cool. And of
It
course,
was a mutual nagging, but yeah, I
Mutual
was the stick
nagging.
in the mud for the most part as to why we didn't get started sooner.
well, I'm glad it eventually did because I again with just the first track that's been released, I can already hear that musical chemistry that's going on there between the vocals and the instrumentation and the songwriting process all together. It makes me very excited for the next batch of songs that'll be created for the first full release because I can already hear that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we have maybe like 5 or 6 songs in the pipeline. We were just talking about this. We have a couple coming, um, that are coming down that we're actively working on right now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
So,
we have one slated for release this coming August is the next one up. Will be a cover of The Parting Glass.
oh, that is so cool. I'm glad to hear that there's already new material that's already in the works for just a little under 2 months now. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a cover of a Scottish folk song, and we figured, well, we make folk metal, and it's a popular song, it's well loved, and we both have some really neat ideas for it, so why not give it a try and see where that one goes?
And
Yeah,
I'm
we
gathering
definitely
because
let our soundtrack energy fly with this one.
oh,
For sure.
totally. So I'm gathering. I mean, already you can hear the influences and the ideas that you're going for with just the first song alone. But I imagine when you two first started talking about making music together, that this was the direction that you wanted to go into.
Pretty much, yeah, I would say, because like Josh was saying, we listen to all the same bands. Like we're both really into folk metal, power metal. We like all the same stuff, so we have this joke that we're the same person in different bodies, pretty much, because we share so many of the same influences and the same musical backgrounds. So it really just takes a little bit of communication as to what the style we're going for will be and what influences that we're drawing from will be. So we'll usually, when we start working on a song, we'll discuss like what inspired us sonically to write the song in a certain way. And then because we listen to the same stuff already, we tend to just intuitively understand it. And so it develops naturally from that just because we've known this about each other for 3 years. And so it's coming more from our mutual background as friends than from anything else, I would say, unless you disagree, Josh.
No, definitely. it almost kind of makes the need for reference tracks go away because we already know what we're talking about. Like a lot of bands when we're in the process of writing a song, they'll say, well, I want it to be like this, but with these elements and with like we just have this thing where we can immediately know what each other is going for with a song, I think. And that is very helpful with the creative process because there's not a whole lot of arguing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what
You
works so
also
great with
like
the
make it.
musical chemistry.
What was that? Sorry.
I
Okay.
was saying that's what makes it work so great with the musical chemistry when both of you know what you're looking for and you're working towards the same goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like Josh, you made a playlist with the influences for one of the songs or a couple of the songs. Did you
Yeah,
make
I
people
do
listen
that
into
more
it?
for my own benefit than anything so that I can keep on track. Like for Where Shadows Lie, I put like This Scarecrow by Avantasia and some different other songs as influences, but not necessarily like we're going for exactly that. More like we're taking little bits and pulling it in and then making it our own within that framework. Because obviously Sophia's voice is very unique. My voice is getting there. But like the hurdy-gurdy and all these other different fun folk instruments really make it into something new and fresh and that like no one else is doing exactly the same thing. So I think that we have a lot of things like that working in our favor as far as standing out from the crowd.
It's kind of this weird paradoxical thing where we both like all of the same music, but we also draw from like different areas of the same music. So I tend to come from probably more of a black metal background than you do. And so like I'll draw more from the heavier aspects, and then Josh will draw more from the folkier aspects of what we both like. So it just becomes this Venn diagram of things that drawing from different corners of the same influences, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's what I'm already hearing that and just with the first single alone, it's like it does sound familiar, but it sounds original at the same time, which I think is a great way to go about it when, it is a very folk metal inspired because there's so many different types of folk metal out there. Like it's really hard to find like two folk metal bands that sound identical. So you're able to pull different kind of instrumentation or vocal melodies or being able to incorporate other things like black metal into it and you're able to create your own sound with it. And I can already hear that happening. It's just like the sound is forging so well. And I'm just so excited to see where the rest of that goes, because I imagine there's going to be heavier songs, lighter songs, doing Scottish covers as well, too. It's just like there's so much room where it can grow. And I'm excited to see where that goes from my perspective.
Yeah, there's going to be the full spectrum of light and dark and everything in between. So it's kind of, I do kind of the same thing in my solo project, Exiled Hope. I draw from a huge spectrum of influences ranging from the folkier stuff to the heavier black metal type of stuff. And with Forgotten Shrine, it's similar, but there's more of that mutual collaboration going on, obviously, with different instrumentation, different songwriting techniques, different goals as far as what the songs are trying to accomplish. So yeah, just we're creating without any limits, and it's fun, and we're not really
Yeah, I would say
pushing
that
ourselves.
Forgotten Shrine. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think you're lagging a little bit because like the internet's being weird. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that Forgotten Shrine is probably less heavy than Exiled Hope, and maybe a little bit more mainstream accessible, but not in the way that you would think. Like,
Mhm.
it's the kind of thing where I could see it being in like the trailer for a new fantasy game or something like that. Like, we would love to have like the Parting Glass be in something like that, linked to some kind of media piece, because I think that it has such an epic sound to it, and we're really excited to share that with everybody. Um, yeah, like Exiled Hope is way more black metal than Forgotten Shrine, and the black metal elements that Sophia brings to Forgotten Shrine are nothing that I could have ever come up with, which is why I think that our synergy together is really really cool.
Yeah, and that's why I was bringing that up before too, is because I really enjoy the chemistry just from one song alone, and I imagine that's got to be going on throughout the rest of it as well too. And of course, just like looking at your background and seeing all the different instruments that you have behind you. I imagine it's got to be a lot of fun, like being able to like, hey, I want to throw hurdy-gurdy in this, or hey, I want to play acoustic bass on this, or whatever the case might be. It's just like you got a wide range of instrumentation to be able to really flesh out the songs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like we have another song in the works that's very, very Southern Gothic influence. So it's got like some like bluegrass type feel to it, but much darker. That's going to be my probably one of my favorite songs that I've ever worked on. That'll probably be coming up late this year, early next year. And that one is the one that I want to go in and just like use all of my I have like 20 instruments behind me, and I want to use every single one of them for that song.
Oh, that's so cool. And yeah, I mean, and I just love the fact that you're able to be inspired by each other too. I mean, whether it's like a vocal idea or an instrumentation idea, I mean, there's so much that can really go into all these. And just like hearing the ideas that'll be fleshed out in the future. I mean, whether you're going more Southern Gothic, whether you're going more folk metal, more black metal, more commercial, it's like I mentioned before, it seems like it could be limitless for what this band really could be.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to we're kind of just throwing our ideas out there and then seeing what comes of it. We're not really, I mean, we'll have like a rough outline of what we're trying to accomplish with the song, but ultimately we don't really like we know that this is a collaborative effort and we're both just kind of throwing things at each other and making sure that it works in context, and if it does, great, then that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah, and I also appreciate the fact that like I can just tell by the way of the communication, like none of this feels forced at all. Like it feels so natural, just from the way that you two talk to each other, from hearing the songs, hearing about what the songs will be in the future. And I think that's such an important thing, especially for today's age, where just making music as authentically as possible, even if it does take a bit of time to be able to get all the arrangements and the production and everything done on there. I'd rather have that as a listener and have it be done as it needs to be done rather than just like a forced out putting out songs that you don't feel that comfortable with, or it really does just feel like a b-side that doesn't need to be there. I like this approach.
Yeah, I think like as
Yeah.
a go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I think as a music listener, you can tell when something feels forced and inauthentic and unnatural, and we want to avoid that at all costs because it's not fun to listen to, it's not fun to make, and that's ultimately not what the project is about.
Yeah, and this day and age is the only time when this sort of collaboration could have ever happened, because we live in different states. We're like 6 hours away from each other. We've never met in person. So the fact that we can like bounce tracks back and forth and do everything with just the two of us is a very new thing, and I'm very, very thankful for the technology that lets us do this, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible.
Oh, very much so. And speaking of that, of course, with this being such a collaborative effort, how much of a challenge was it to be able to come up with a name like Forgotten Shrine to be able to call this collaboration?
I think we had a couple of ideas that we ran through, and then um, we went for a name that was Googleable and memorable. I'm studying to be a music lawyer, and a lot of that involves learning about trademark law and learning to choose business names and help business owners come up with names that are memorable and recognizable and Googleable, but also that don't like infringe on anyone else's intellectual property. So the challenge was to come up with a name that spoke to our vision and our sound, that was original enough to be Googleable and searchable, but not so esoteric that people just wouldn't remember it. But also, of course, original enough that no one else was using that name or anything similar.
Yeah, and it still has that air of mystery to it, to where it's like it makes you think, "Oh, Forgotten Shrine, what's that about?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it has such a cool, like mysterious, fantastical vibe to it with just two words, that I think that it just worked. We went through a bunch of different ideas that involved the word shrine, but Forgotten Shrine is the one that just made it.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things that really struck out to me before I heard the music was how infectious the name is, because it really does have that feeling of like a mysticism behind it, because you want to know just a little bit more of what that's about. Like, what is this forgotten shrine? And, being able to explore deeper into it. And of course, when you got the music to be able to match behind it, it's just great symmetry.
Yeah, it's kind of like the title of a fantasy film or fantasy game where it kind of lures you in and you want to know more about it. Like, what is the shrine? Why has it been forgotten? We have a lot of inside jokes about, hey, have you forgotten your shrine today?
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
that's exactly the vibe that I wanted. And like when we were designing the logo, what I said to the graphic designer is I wanted to invoke like a book in like a library that you just want to pick up. Like
Mhm.
that's with the font and everything, with the it's kind of whimsical, like an Alice in Wonderland
Yeah.
type vibe to it. I just want it to have this thing where it's like, ooh, what is that? I want to pick that up. Like that feeling when you're like a kid at a movie store or at a library and you see something neat, you're like, ooh, some like cool fantasy video game or along those lines.
Yep.
Oh, totally. And that's exactly what I see like when I look at the imagery for the first single, because it really does just have like that really old kind of a cultish kind of book that you see in the back of the library that just like kind of appeals to you. And it's like, ooh, what's this all about? And then you pull it out and then you flip through it, and that could be like the album. And that's what I'm imagining through it. So, just like being able to find the right people to be able to pull that off and get that illustration behind it and get it to really work with the band. I mean, you guys did some great work with that.
Thank you. Yeah, the visual aspects of our brand are probably as important as the musical aspects of our brand because it's a collective effort that draws from a whole bunch of different influences. So we put a lot of thought into what kind of art style we want, into the font style for the logo and how that's going to be applied to our album covers. We're always discussing our single or album artwork ideas, and we even came up with our little skeleton characters that you see on the Where Shadows Lie cover, because we thought it would be this unique, memorable way of conveying our alter egos in the project.
Oh, so very cool. So, thinking about that, going with the future, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned in the very beginning, like working on ideas for the full release when that time comes. Do you imagine more coming from this, like the idea of like anyone incorporating anyone into this into the live setting, or do you just want to keep it the two of you, or where do you see this going from here?
I think we would like to collaborate with more artists, obviously. We asked Ember Belladonna. She's a flute player who does like music for movies and video games and other projects like that. And we thought that she would be a perfect fit for our upcoming single, "The Parting Glass." We carved out a little section for her to play the flute on, do a little flute solo, play whatever she
And
wanted
her
with
solo
regards
album
to.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, and just do whatever she wanted with regards to her instrument on the song. And so, yeah, I see a lot of collaborations in our future if this one takes off.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that too, because there are so many great instrumentalists out there who are able to have different voices with that. I mean, be it brass, woodwind, percussion, whatever the case is. And when you're able to have those kind of collaborations with that, I think it just wins for everybody.
Absolutely.
Oh,
But to answer your other question, there aren't plans at the moment to have a live show. Maybe sometime way down the line, but if it's going to happen, we don't know about it yet.
Yeah.
and that makes all the sense. And I think we also just live in the kind of world right now where, at least to me, the music always comes first, and making sure that you have some great quality music out there for people to hear is important. And, with the rising cost of being able to even just do a local show, let alone being able to do like one off festivals or mini touring or full on touring, there's so much that goes into it. And as long as I can go out there and be able to buy the music or buy merch or whatever the case is, I'm glad I can still support it that way, even if I can't see a band live, or even if a band or a project doesn't even perform live. I'm glad I can still help promote it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a merch store too. So for anyone listening, if you want some Forgotten Shrine merch, check that out.
So,
Yeah, if you
thinking
want
about that
us
as
as
well.
skeletons on your shirt.
Oh yeah, I
Skeleton.
was just gonna say when it comes to like the merch, like how much detail went into like coming up with the ideas of what you wanted to put on there?
Well, actually, my wife was the one who designed it. She's been working with the two of us on brainstorming ideas for the single artwork. So, like this artwork for Where Shadows Lie was the two of us, me with the hurdy-gurdy, Sophia with her magical sword, which is mentioned in the song, and then the artwork for the Parting Glass is going to be similar in style, but not exactly. It's going to be a skeletal hand holding a chalice. So I think that's going to be really cool as a merch idea as well.
I think it'd be really fun on a mug to have a skeletal hand holding a chalice.
That would be awesome. I think we can swing that.
hmm
That makes me want to buy it. I mean, that sounds really cool just from the idea alone. Oh, awesome. Well, obviously, again, it's like, again, I appreciate the fact that you are taking your time to be able to make all these songs happen and have this collaboration going on there. And just the enjoyment that I see and hear from both of you is just makes me even more excited to be able to check out everything when everything does come to fruition. But obviously, I know, like as mentioned before, with like other works that you're doing, like Exiled Hope, like what else are you doing musically outside of this?
Oh boy, that's a lot. So
Yeah.
um, I did a soundtrack for a short film that came out back in November. It's for the film What Happens After Midnight. It's very synthy, very electronic, very different from what I do with both Exiled Hope and Forgotten Shrine. It's pretty much entirely electronic, and it's for a short horror film about a haunted hotel. It's really fun, and it's my best-selling release on Bandcamp, and I'm actually releasing it on all platforms this Thursday. So if you've been dying to check it out, but you don't want to go through Bandcamp, you can check it out anywhere you listen to music on Thursday. And regarding film soundtracks, there's one in the works currently. I did a soundtrack for the short film Hallowed Paths, and that's hopefully coming out this year. I think they're making some final edits to the film right now, and then that's gonna come out later this year, hopefully, maybe early next year at the latest. I also did a collaboration with a band from the UK, Steelforge, and we are releasing a collaboration EP called Realm of the Exiled. So that'll be coming out later this year too. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Oh, so cool. So thinking about that, I mean, like when you got yourself in so many different styles of music that you're doing, do you have to put yourself in a particular headspace to be able to start working on those genres, or do you just like automatically know what to do and be able to pull things off that way, or how do you go about that?
I listen to a lot of music from a lot of different genres, so I kind of will listen to like the reference tracks that someone sends me, or I'll have some sort of idea in my head, and then I go through and I reverse engineer the song that I'm basing my work on. Like, usually, when I work on a song, I'll have a couple of tracks in my mind as reference tracks, and then I kind of reverse engineer the different parts of those songs and I put them together so that parts that would not work together outside of this outside of this musical little universe that I'm creating end up fitting together just because certain parts of certain songs work better with other aspects of other songs, if that makes sense. I know that's complicated. But yeah, it's just all about mixing and matching different styles and feels and making sure that everything ends up working together cohesively from those reference tracks that I have. I tend to be very specific about the songs that I choose for references, so it's it's never just some sort of vague idea that's in my head. I always go out and I find something that sounds kind of like what I'm doing, and I try to like not replicate it, but try to bring the same feeling and overall stylistic tendencies from those
Yeah,
references.
and that makes it your own too. It makes it into something that only you could have made rather than directly copying somebody else. It like when you take inspiration from very different places and then mix them together, you're going to end up with something new just because you're the one who did it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it does help so much when you do have such a wide array of a musical palette as well, too, whether it's just something that you're listening to for your own enjoyment or when you're able to understand the reference tracks if someone wants you to commission to do something, whatever the case is, like when you're open and honest to being able to work on different kinds of music, that really helps with the creativity. And when you work on other projects, that'll help with the influence as well.
I think the more that you listen to a wide variety of genres, you kind of start building this catalog in your mind of the stylistic tendencies and the little quirks, the little eccentricities that every genre and style tends to have. So when someone says, "Hey, I need a doom metal song, kind of like Swallow the Sun for this film that I'm working on," I know how to draw the major elements from a song like that to create something that works for the style that they're looking for.
You definitely piqued my interest when you said "Swallow the Sun." There, one of
They're one of
one
my
of my
favorites.
favorite Finnish doom bands. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the lookout for that when that comes out because if you're doing something that incorporates just a little bit of influence with that, you got my attention.
Oh, that's the Hallowed Path soundtrack that's coming out later this year. So I will be blasting that all over social media, and you will definitely see it if you follow me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that. And of course, again, like I've mentioned throughout the interview, I really am enjoying what you've done with Where Shadows Lie, and it's just got me so excited about everything that's going to be going on with this collaborative effort from here on outwards, and everything that you've talked about throughout all this is just got my attention so much of where this could go, the ideas that's going to spring forward, and when it does come out, it's got me excited to be able to check out the full releases of everything. And I thank both of you so much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about everything with Forgotten Shrine, everything from the imagery to outside work to what to look forward to in the future. It took me from being excited to be able to do this interview to being more excited to see what will happen with this in the future. And I thank you so much for both of the, thank you so much to both of you for all of that.
Thank you for having us. This was really fun.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Before we wrap things up, if there's anything else you want to be able to plug, like mentioning the merch and the releases and everything else that's going on, please feel free.
Josh, I feel like I've been talking over you. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I am Josh underscore 1138 on Instagram. I post a lot of cover reels of various things that I like. I don't know. There's really no common theme. There's that, and then of course the Forgotten Shrine YouTube channel and the Teespring store. Trying to think. I think that's about it for me.
Cool. And on Instagram and Threads, I am legally_metal. It's a parody of Legally Blonde because I am a metal musician who is attending law school. And I post about that and about my music and all my collaborations and Forgotten Shrine and Exiled Hope. So yeah, follow me on I'm most active on Instagram and Threads if you want to find me on there and check out what I'm up to.